Welcome back, Mistakes listeners. This is Dave, and glad to have you back. This is episode 47. We recorded this episode on January 10th, 2016. And this week we watched, this episode, we watched Glitter Force. Yep, straight from Japan, right to Netflix. And we love Netflix, as you know. You can follow us on Twitter at Parent Mistakes. And you can also follow us on Facebook at Parenting Mistakes. Sit back and enjoy the show. So, Todd, a little bit in the pre-show, we were talking that you might not know much about Japanese anime.
That is a true statement.
Tell me what you, like at the bare minimum, what you might know about the cartoons that come from the Never Eat Sour Wheat. Is it Far East? Right? Is that what Japan is considered? Or to me, it's always West, right?
Yeah.
So I'm always confused because I'm like, Japan for me is the West, right? But we're the West because we're Western culture.
That's a very long discussion.
Cartoons from the Far East.
I think there is a certain geocentric approach when it comes to any direction. Because the world, it be round. Right. If I go far enough west, then I'll come back to the east. So, I guess I don't think in those terms. I try to, think about it, because it's a very, 15th century, I'm getting in a boat and I'm going across the ocean that way, and I don't know what...
It is a very, white man, European-centric idea.
I mean, yes, if you're going left on the globe, that's west.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
I go to north to go say hi to you from Los Angeles.
And then you would go north to say hi to me, and then we would take a boat to the left.
But if I kept going north, then all the way around, then I could come back to my house. So I guess, I don't know. But
you're sounding like my kindergartner.
But back to your original question.
Yes. How much anime, Japanese animation...
There's very little anime in my life.
Really? Not even growing up?
No, I would venture to say none. Oh, let me ask you this.
Wow. I find that hard to believe.
Okay,
I think you're more influenced by that than you know.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll throw the question back to you. Are there shows that I would have seen that would... I don't know what the general criteria for anime is. Like, what is anime versus just animation? I mean, it's still a cartoon, right?
Yes. It's still an animated feature. Anime.
But is it one of those terms that I don't know.
All right, here's what the Oracle says. Here's what the Oracle says. Are you ready?
Is it sort of like a certain time periods of art where there's no beginning date and end date per se? You're the art history guy.
Right. No, I would say that anime originated out of the 50s, without a doubt. As long as there have been Japanese animators, there's a certain style that I feel has originated from Japan, and you can clearly identify it when you see it.
Okay.
Because I would say that you could tell the difference between, say, a Disney cartoon and a cartoon that came out of Tokyo. Right? Wouldn't even the common man on the street? Anyway, this is the definition. It is a style of Japanese film and television animation typically aimed at adults as well as children.
Okay.
That doesn't say anything.
Right. That's a lot of things.
That's
the entire Cartoon Network.
Okay. Let's see here.
But there's also manga, or manga. I think say it wrong.
Well, we're just focusing on anime. Okay. So, the word is the abbreviated partition of animation in Japanese, where this term references all animation without regards to nation of origin. Interesting. So the Japanese might view Disney as anime. Outside Japan, however, anime is used to refer specifically to animation from Japan, or as a Japanese dissemination.
Disseminated, yes.
Thank you. Animation style, often characterized by colorful graphics, vibrant characters, and fantastical themes. Arguably,
also very broad.
Yes, arguably the stylization approach to the meaning may open up the possibility of anime produced in countries other than Japan. Right. So you are drawing in the anime style. Oh, they're saying animation in Japan started in 1917. So basically,
Well, it's close to the 50s.
Well, I think some of the more popular anime. So basically, in Japan, if what we're learning here together as dads is that anything that's coming out of Japan that's animated is anime. And I would say once it comes out of Japan and you and I see it, we go, that's not a cartoon, that's anime. There's a big difference.
Didn't something like Transformers come out of Japan?
See, that's where it gets a little bit
I could
weird.
be wrong about that.
No, I think you're actually right. I've done a little bit of Transformer cartoon research, and here's a better one. Let's go with Robotech. Have you watched the Little Robotech? Seen it? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Not much.
Robotech clearly is animation that came out of Japan, and it actually had almost a completely different storyline when it came to the United States, because a lot of it just got lost in translation when it came over. But it's clearly animated and coming out of Japan, and I don't know. You're giving me this confused look. What's the confused look?
I think what I'm, and again, I sort of know this having seen it from a very broad standpoint. There's words here: colorful graphics, vibrant characters, fantastical themes.
Yep. Thank you, Wikipedia.
Yeah, thank you, Wikipedia. Well, and because there's the hand-drawn aspect, so there's certain camera effects, there's certain panning. Well, let me ask you this. Was Star Blazers anime? Or was
100% yes.
Was it influenced by anime?
It is anime.
Okay.
It's very much like Robotech.
So I would say that Star Blazers is probably my closest, my biggest impact from anime. That's the show that I watch, because I watched that as a kid.
I'm finding it fascinating that we're just trying to define what anime is, because I can tell you clearly, when I see it, I know it. And there's actually genre categories on Netflix that say anime, and some that just say cartoons or animation.
Well, and I think, and again, I don't want to get into a big thing, but it does bring up other questions as parents to sort of say, okay, is animation, are cartoons just for kids? Obviously, The Simpsons and Family Guy and all these other shows that Fox has produced over the years have been targeted to adults, as have certain things from the Cartoon Network. And then reciprocally are certain shows that we would say, okay, these are more adult-oriented, and yet don't necessarily have inappropriate content. Can they be watched by kids? Sometimes I know that adult shows, they'll say, this isn't great for kids because it's got adult themes.
Yes. And
I think what I usually translate that to is the kids are just going to be bored.
No, I would say the Batman the Animated Series, clearly for kids, but had a lot of adult themes.
Okay. All right.
But that's why this request came from me this week to watch Glitter Force.
Glitter Force.
Because I'm like, okay, so let me give you a tiny bit of history. My eldest has been watching Glitter Force. Okay. I have watched a little over-the-shoulder viewing with her. But I said to you, I really need, as a parent, to look at this cartoon and let's do our Todd and Dave analysis of it.
Okay.
Because, first of all, I think you and I are confused as to say, even right off the bat, what the heck is anime?
Right.
Clearly, this cartoon comes out of Japan, and I'm speculative of it. What's going on?
Well, okay, let me throw this back to you. Does it matter? Does it matter that it's from Japan? Does it matter that it's anime versus...
Yeah, it matters in that...
old-fashioned American animation produced by Disney or DreamWorks or what have you. Does it matter?
It does, because I think the Japanese culture is pretty different than ours.
Okay.
I do. I think there's a lot... I think there's some values that they have that are different that they might... they might, and I can't know, but I can say that when I look at something like a very westernized Disney approach, I know what I'm getting there. When I'm looking at anime, I'm like, well, I've got a question mark because I'm like, how is violence purported over there? Is it, I can't really say clearly that when I'm watching a particular anime show, I know exactly what I'm going to get. Then I've seen Disney, although... backing up there, I see the Disney name, and I think, well, I know what I'm going to get as far as their animation, But I think I also know what I'm going to get if I'm watching Disney XD as well, right?
Right.
So if there's an anime station, I am not clear as to what I'm getting because I'm not totally familiar with the culture that it's coming from. Which was also another criticism of Little Lunch. There was a question mark for me for Little Lunch too, referencing that show because it comes completely from Australia and there's a culture I really don't have a whole lot of understanding about.
Right. Okay.
So I think it was important for me to sit down, just as anybody should with everything, but more so that I go, do I understand what's happening here as she's watching this show?
So, to summarize the show, and again, you've been watching it, so this is good for me to summarize because I've watched one episode.
And we watched the episode.
Yeah, this is the climax of the first season.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this group of, boy, I don't know what they are. I mean, they're girls. They're just girls, and they're hanging out.
5 girls.
They're 5 girls, and they're a team, and they're the good guys, and then they also can transform into the Glitter Force.
Right.
And then they go and they fight the bad guys in the, I don't remember where they went.
From what I could pull
the
from it,
Darkland to rescue their little creature, which
right.
This is again gonna be me reading love poetry here.
I know.
Rescue this little creature from
the Darkland.
This group of bad guys who are trying to let like the ultimate bad guy back into the universe.
Yes, that is correct.
And they spend a lot of time in this show doing wardrobe changes.
Yes. There's a good 5-minute sequence of them becoming the Glitter Force.
Yeah, when they say, okay, it's Glitter Force time.
Right, so they go over there. I think they're common schoolgirls.
Go make yourself a sandwich.
They're common Japanese schoolgirls that actually have a secret power, kind of like Hannah Montana, right? And when they need to activate, they become the Glitter Force by actually opening up their cosmetic cases, and they use their powder puffs.
Yeah,
to touch the parts of their body.
Some sort of jewelry thing.
No, it was powder puffs, and they're powder puffing their arms and legs and their faces, and they suddenly this powder puffs give them the powers.
Powerpuff Girls or whatever,
No.
a similar thing.
By the way, we should review them at some point too.
We should.
To become the Glitter Force, right?
Yes. And then they have all these abilities and certain weapons and.
Right. What was it? The one is like Spring Princess. They become princesses.
Right.
Because I wanted to pull from that too. It's like Sophia on crack. Right?
Oh yeah.
Like suddenly.
Yeah, Sophia meets Voltron.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, the only thing they didn't do was like do sort of this.
They do.
Like,
at the end of the episode, like form blazing, everybody gets a special sword.
Right. But the only thing they didn't do was form like one really big girl.
No,
they started swinging at the bad guy.
That's right. They didn't do that.
They didn't become different appendages and just this thing.
So they have this creature that has been abducted by the bad guys. They take him to this dark plane. They go to the dark plane, and this show is heavily serialized. So these are all the villains for the first season that they've been fighting. They're all there together. They kind of form their own evil force.
Right.
To go after the Glitter Force, and they think they've got the girls this time. And boy, are these villains over the top. And I had to say, in my opinion, hyper scary. Right? They're like over the top. Like some of them are like clowns. Right?
Right.
One's an old evil hag that transforms herself into this beautiful woman. Right? And it's crazy. Not that both
and
women
lots
are
of
bad.
monologuing.
or that evil hags are bad.
Right. Lots of monologues going on.
I'll show you. I am the best in the universe. Right? And like, no, you can't beat me. I'm a part of the Glitter Force, and I've got glitter powers. Oh wow. And I had to catch my breath every 5 minutes or so just to try to keep up. I'm like, what's going on?
Okay, so I'm gonna jump into this thing here.
Go ahead. Please help me because I'm in glitter mode. I am powder puffing myself.
I wasn't really sure what to make of this because, yeah, the bulk of the show is like getting dressed and posturizing. I mean, basically just sort of making speeches. There's just
Yes.
there's just a lot of there is a ton of buildup and a lot of sort of okay, we're going to show you the transformation of this particular girl, and we're going to do lots of zoom ins on her hair and her outfit and her new weapons, and then we're going to go to the next girl, and we're going to do this for all 5.
And all of them will get a mini dialogue.
Yes.
I am Spring Princess, and I will bring the power of spring to the land for everybody to see, and I will defeat all the enemies. Sorry.
And in a 22-minute episode, they did this twice.
They did. It's crazy.
And in between, and this is where you go back to your anime question, in between they have some fairly, I don't want to say graphic, but fairly strong, violent, encounters with these bad guys.
No, and the Glitter Force is getting trashed.
Yeah, they are getting trashed, and this is where it's okay. So back to our fantastic research source, Wikipedia. Okay,
yeah. Being
hand drawn, anime is separated from reality by a crucial gap of fiction that provides an ideal path for escapism that audience can immerse themselves into with relative ease. So it's almost like the animators say, all right, we can be as violent as we want. We can make, and some of the characters, I will say, when they're in sort of their low point of being beat down, they look fairly disheveled.
They do.
They look
dirty.
They look dirty. They look sort of beat up. They sort of do what, and I don't want to get off topic here, but they sort of do what they did with sort of the modern Daniel Craig James Bond.
Yes.
They let him bleed. They let him bleed a little bit. They let him look beat up. And so, but because it's hand drawn and because it is a little rough, you can get away with basically saying, oh, by the way, remember, this is fiction.
Yes.
This is still a cartoon. Because can't you tell we drew this by hand? And you can't take something drawn by hand too seriously. We're still going to remind you that we are away from reality.
It's hyper-realized.
Yeah. And, again, the escapism, and this is, again, one of the things that I will say, and when you asked me at the beginning my exposure to, colorful graphics, vibrant characters, fantastical themes. Very dramatic. Like very sort of, I don't know. I remember this from Star Blazers, too.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of where like every time,
right.
Over the top emotions. It's sort of like teenagers when they really want you to know that they're upset. It's like the big sighs and the groans. I mean, we had a discussion in our last episode about sports people.
Mm-hmm.
It's the athlete that on the field you don't think is actually hurt, but they sort of did this big dramatic, like they've been shot and they are lying there. And it's a lot of that. It's very, very. I don't know if it's emotional.
I would say it's very emotional.
But it's very dramatic.
Yeah.
It is. It's almost overacting.
It is. Well, it's manipulating the audience to really feel the situation. That's how I felt about when watching it. I'm like, oh, I'm emotionally invested in what's happening because they're telling me I should be.
Right. And to your point before, I don't know if it's just because I'm not really used to anime. I didn't grow up with it. I didn't find myself to be that connected to it. Now, again, we've talked multiple times about the challenge as a parent trying to figure out what's going on in your kid's head as opposed to your own. Because it's not supposed to make me emotionally involved, even if, there is a target demographic that is adult. It's not about me. I can't necessarily make the judgment based on how I react to it. So, as I watched it, I was sort of like, okay, already, stop talking. These long speeches, the costume changes. I'm just like, this just feels like a forced, toy commercial again. It feels like, you have no story here, so you have to fill up at least half the episode with basically transitional graphics.
This is true, and this is the season finale, right?
Yeah.
The season finale, and they're filling it with like at least 10 minutes of metadata.
Right. And, again, we don't care about spoilers as much here, but at the end of the episode, the bad guy does appear. And then for some reason, they now have a new force, this new ability.
Well, no, it's not for some reason. They have been collecting charms throughout the entire season. They get the final charm unlocked, and now they are able to unlock unicorn glitter power. The glitter corn.
Yes. Which, again, fits very well into merchandising, into collecting things, into sort of this sense that, if you get enough baubles, you will somehow gain.
So let me tell you where I landed on this after watching it and really kind of giving it our analysis, my own personal analysis too, is that I went, if this is a show that your child desires to watch, then it should not be multiples of this show. I think we had this discussion with the Marvel episode. We talked about the Marvel Heroes show.
Mm-hmm.
What's the name of that show? Where basically, you had the Red Skull and Captain America, and it was all about beating them up and punching. We're like, What is the effect on the child when they're watching their quote-unquote 2 hours a day, and it's just 2 hours of this?
Just
I would say
beat. Yeah.
And I would say Glitter Force kind of sits in that same category of buyer beware, but really this is all about crazy juxtaposition, hyper-realized ideas, and just a lot of beatdown.
Right. You could. It's a mashup of classic boxing and, I don't know, one of these fashion shows. Say Yes to the Dress or something like that. I mean, It's like you've got the outfits and the violence. Yep. Which, there you go. There's a winning formula for a TV show right there. Costume changes and violence. So take note out there, writers, if you want to have a successful show.
Right. There's lots of
costume changes and knockdown, drag-out fights.
Wow.
I don't know. To your point, what is this show? It's
a girl's power fantasy.
It is, but it's also kind of a A-team. There's got to be a big fight at the end type thing.
Yeah, it's formulated. I'm sure that this is not the first time that we've seen this in the last 26 episodes. In fact, we probably saw this in the last 26 episodes of whatever the season was.
Yeah. They're none of the Glitter Force is going to get stabbed with a lightsaber and, be removed from the show.
That is true. That is correct.
So.
Which is why I think that their little creature was the thing that was in jeopardy. Because they're like, this little stuffed toy thing actually probably could be thrown away or hurt because it's actually technically not a Glitter Force member.
Right. But that humanizes it because they're like, oh, well, we've got all these cool powers and we can beat people up, and yet we have compassion for these little talking. I don't even know what they were.
Yeah.
Strange.
So I think what I felt on was like, you know what, Keeleen, I think we're going to keep this show at bay a little bit, my friend. It's not just going to be carte blanche, hey, I just want to watch 4 hours of Glitter Force.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't really... Again, it's always hard to, how is this going to influence my child? Again, it's just this kind of hyper-realized fantasy world that's just in your face, and the last thing I want Keeleen doing is monologuing and dialoguing to other kids in the playground, right? I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to become Princess Kidney, and I'm going to use my kidney beans, and you'll not know what to do. So watch out,
kidney
right?
Kidney beans.
Magic kidney beans. Watch your mouth.
All right. Anything else on this show?
Well, you can we have a social network. We do. A couple of social networks.
We are on Twitter. You can tweet us, Parent Mistakes. We'd love to have you follow us. I've been dropping a few parenting quotes every once in a while there.
That's good.
Yeah, a little bits about parenting. You can agree or disagree. And you can also like our Facebook page, Parenting Mistakes. We're there. It's a big green box. Leave us your comments. We will watch a lot of stuff, so if you want to leave us some comments, that'd be great.
Yeah.
All right. And now we have the Glitter Force ability to end this podcast.
We're going to end this show, so just be quiet. Yeah. Okay, I don't know.